I work with organizations of every kind and size, and I never cease to be amazed at how rarely companies offer emotionally intelligent processes for resolving conflicts. Think about it. Have you ever, when you started a new job, attended a seminar that explains how we resolve conflicts here? I'd be surprised if your answer were yes. Most of the time, employees are told by management, "We are a team here." For some reason, companies seem to expect their employees to come to the job knowing instinctively which steps to take to address challenges they face on the job. If there is training on this important topic, it tends to be idealized and fails to make a direct connection to the actual culture of the organization. Why people have problems resolving conflicts. In my experience, very few organizations can articulate the most effective and realistic approach to problem solving and conflict resolution, even though employees are called upon to use this skill every single day. If a manager does say, "Okay, folks, we've got to stop the bickering and get along here," there's rarely even a hint as to how to stop the bickering beyond the nondescript, "behave and get along" type of instruction. If an attempt is made to get to the cause of the conflict, it usually results in assigning blame. Once there is an assignment of blame, opposing sides resort to blame avoidance and reluctance or refusal to take responsibility. I call this the no-stick approach to work, the effort to bounce blame off of oneself and attach it to someone else. How often do you read emails or sit at meetings in which people use techniques to avoid blame or responsibility for some blow-up or failure? Worse yet, how often does someone attempt to lay blame or assign negative responsibility directly on your shoulders? Everyone expects the other person to learn how to behave, because no one feels safe enough to assume responsibility. We end up feeling victimized at work, and thus have a hard time seeing our own behavior in any sort of objective light. Responsibility comes to mean not courage and ownership, but blame. Under these circumstances, we have a hard time trusting the people we work with. At the end of the workday, we are exhausted, and the exhaustion isn't from our work, but from dodging bullets. This typically happens to a greater or lesser degree, but at whatever level it does occur, we start to expect that this is what work is about. That brings disengagement, and over time, both the professional loses and the organization loses. When destructive conflict occurs, the informal network works overtime, with more gossip ensuing, thereby deepening the polarization. In more extreme cases, disputants can undermine each other's efforts. And if the position of leadership is to assume that everyone will get along better in the future, or that this is just what happens at work, it's not surprising that everyone comes to expect that what happened in the past will continue in the present, that this is the status quo. Consequently, when it comes to resolving long-standing conflicts at work, most people rely on their personal styles for doing so, which they probably developed when they were kids. Coping styles learned in childhood are generally not flexible, and rarely are useful in the workplace. Professionals who have had training in conflict management skills commonly have been taught to focus on a linear, combative model to support their efforts. The training, moreover, usually is idealized and fails to use as examples real situations about real people, which could help them when they are in the trenches. To date, no organization I have been called in to work with was factoring the company culture into the teaching of conflict resolution skills. For example, some cultures are more aggressive than others. Working at them requires assertive management skills. In more non-confrontational cultures, by contrast, employees need to use indirect language. Thus, the training I provide for, say, construction workers, must be different from the training I offer to social workers. The concepts are the same, but the situational language used has to shift.